Hey guys, just wanted to talk a little bit today because some of this stuff's been bothering me for a little while, but it's just another rant about tone basically. So if this doesn't interest you, then fine, just go watch something else. I'll try to keep it fairly brief though. So ever since I started learning how to play guitar, I've, especially over the years, I've noticed some similarities between the way musicians have their ideas and the way people hold religious ideas. So, for instance, tone. It's kind of a weird word because a lot of times when you talk to people about it, the word tone kind of becomes interchangeable with the word God. So, but it's also strange in another way because it's a subjective idea completely. Anybody that tells you otherwise is wrong. And but they confuse their opinion of it with fact. And one of the most important things to remember whenever you're having a discussion about tone with other people is the actual definition of tone. So if you search Google for a quick definition, it will give you the result, and in a musical context, it will be a musical or vocal sound with reference to its pitch, quality, and strength. And that's a good definition, but you have to note that nothing about that definition implies that tone is either good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant, or any other kind of thing like that. You can describe a sound when you're trying to talk about tone, but like you can say that a tone is mid-heavy or warm or bright or brittle or any other kind of descriptive term like that. But what you can't do, at least in a factual sense, is call a tone good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant, nice or nasty, anything like that. You can't give it positive or negative descriptions when you're talking about fact. So the short of it is that tones have factual attributes that you can describe, but if you're giving it a pleasant or an unpleasant description, you have to realize that that is only your opinion. One person's holy grail of tone can be another person's ice pick in the ear. I've seen it. So, having said all that, I've noticed that musicians, and especially guitar players, tend to obsess over their tones. And obsession about tone, things like what influences it, maybe you're trying to emulate somebody else's tone, which is also known as tone chasing. That's where I start to notice the similarities between tone and religious fundamentalism, really. So for the rest of this, I'm going to try to give you some specific examples and sort of add my perspective. So the first thing I want to outline is what's called the bandwagon fallacy. And this is one of the biggest fallacies in the music industry. And it also happens to be one of the biggest ones in religion as well. So the gist of it is that, like, if you were to describe this fallacy, it would be something like, well, many people believe in X, whatever it is, God, tone, whatever you want to call it, tone wood, whatever. Many people believe it, therefore it must be true. And in terms of guitars, it comes up most often when you're talking about tone woods. And you usually hear it vocalized as, everybody knows that tone wood is true. Why are you even arguing? So it's really hard to get people to look past that fallacy and see that it is a fallacy. And it's hard to get people's opinion on why they really believe something other than that, because if they were to say, I believe it because everybody else does, well, that's a really weak reason to believe something. In fact, it's really not a reason to believe anything at all. And you find that if you press them for more information, or if you try to get them to nail down their specific reasons for believing something, you get the next fallacy. And the next fallacy is called the appeal to authority. So this is best known as an expert in X says that it's true, so it must be true. And this one's a little tricky because it's easy to say, let's look at science for a second. If you were to look at a professional physicist or a professional astronomer, and if they were doing some sort of a press release that said, whatever their latest findings were, you could mistake somebody citing that information as an appeal to authority. So the appeal to authority is really just because an expert says it, then it must be true. But if that expert has studied in that field, they will have evidence to present. So it's the evidence you need to look at, right? And anyway, one of the more recent examples of this is in the guitar community in particular. There was a YouTube video from the NAMM show in early 2016, and it was posted by the Andertons music channel, and it features Rob Chapman, Lee Anderton, and a luthier named Chris Fleming. And in the video, Rob asks Chris how much difference the wood makes to the tone of a guitar. Now Chris replies that the neck and body woods make up about 80% of the tone. And he immediately says right after that, that's just my opinion. So, I don't know, Rob and Lee seemed happy to accept that as, proof that woods make a difference in tone. But I have a couple of major problems with that. So the first problem I have with it is that Rob and Lee seemed quite happy to take Chris at his word without asking him for proof or asking him some sort of physical findings that maybe, because Chris has been a luthier for the better part of 20 or 30 years, if not more. I can't remember. I think he says it in the video, but you would think after that amount of time in the field he would have some sort of physical, concrete data to look at to show that what he said was supported by fact. But they didn't ask for any of that, and that's why they committed the appeal to authority fallacy, because they just took him at his word without looking at any evidence he might have had. So anyway, the other problem that I have with that video in particular is that Chris explicitly stated that it was only his opinion, and that it was spiritual, and that it couldn't be measured by science or any kind of objective measuring system that you had. So that right there is faith, and that's what he's asking you to believe him based on. He's saying, it's my opinion, it's spiritual, whatever. That translates into, I don't have a reason, I don't have a physical reason, I don't have a logical reason for you to believe in this. You just have to take my word on it because I've been working in the industry for X amount of years. So that's a huge problem for me. And anyway, if you'd like to watch the entire video, I will link it in the description. But yeah, it's, you just can't take somebody at their word, whether or not they're an expert. You can't take them at their word. You have to look at their evidence. And that's really important. But anyway, as far as fallacies go, those are the two most common I see in any argument about tone or tone woods or, anything like that. And it doesn't have to be about whether or not wood makes a difference. I've seen super heated arguments about tone about like famous guitar players' tone, and whether one of their tones is better than another tone. I've seen people argue to the point of like death threats because of their opinions. They just don't realize that it's their opinion, and it's kind of disheartening to me anyway. So I guess the important thing to take away from this little discussion is that tone itself is subjective, like I said before. You don't mistake a tone that you don't like for a tone that's bad. There is no such thing as a bad tone. There's only tone that you like and tone that you don't like. That's very, very important to remember. And the other thing, hopefully, to take away from this is if you're looking for what influences tone the most, try not to follow assumptions or assertions or fallacies. Just follow what can be tangibly shown, like physical, logical evidence. And if nobody can provide that, then don't take them at their word. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, I hope this wasn't too long-winded. Thanks as always for watching, guys. I would appreciate any comments you'd have in the discussion. Put them in the comment section. I'd love to hear them. And I'll talk to you next time, guys. Take it easy. What?
You're silly.
You're silly. You're in the way. Go back upstairs.
I don't want to. I want to be in here too.
Okay, get.
I don't want to.
You gotta get, or do you want a bath? Well, if you don't get, I'm gonna give you one.
I just want to see.
You've seen, get. Alright, go upstairs. When I'm done, I'm gonna come upstairs and give you a bath. So get your playtime in. Go on. Go on.
I'm going.